So the only time our rabbits get out of the cages is when I take them out and I am handling and working them. And there's a few reasons for this. For one, we're trying to mitigate disease. I am very close to a couple of areas that have had recent RHVD2 outbreaks in the wild population. Meaning if my rabbits get put on the ground and there's a wild rabbit who has that disease, they can easily catch it, and if they easily catch it, it can spread throughout my entire barn. And though I have some of my animals that are vaccinated, not all of them are. A lot of my adults would be fine, but I would lose every single kit in that barn under 6 months of age. And just because your animal is vaccinated doesn't mean that it wouldn't get it, it just kind of mitigates that. They also have enough room in their cages to run around, to Binky to be little jerks. I have videos somewhere of Strawberry taking his bowl and running it in circles around his cage, just enjoying himself and being loud as heck. So they have enough room to play and do things. In fact, the cages I have are above the standard recommended both by the ARBA, Michigan State University, Ohio State University, and Texas AMU. And even in my larger grow-out pens, like I have for my bucks, they stay in one corner 90% of the day. Their grow-out pen is equivalent to 4 of my large cages. And they sit in one corner all day. This answer always gets me in some kind of hot water with the pet community. But scientifically speaking, rabbits do not need that much space to thrive and to be healthy, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. As always, though, this is what works for me and my rabbitry, and if you're doing something different, then keep on doing what you're doing. So I asked you for a source twice in these comments that you left on my video, but unless something has changed in the past couple of hours, which I didn't see, you never gave me a source. We can call this another reason I do not like the HRS, also known as the House Rabbit Society. They push this idea of hay is always needed, hay is the most important thing, and not just any hay will do. No, has to be grass hay, alfalfa is bad. And let me read you an excerpt, because unlike you, I actually have resources. On page 84, Guide to Raising Better Rabbits and Cavies by the ARBA. To add nutrients to the rabbit's diet, one would want to feed the good quality legume hay. This would add protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. To add fiber to the diet, one would use grass hay or a poor quality legume hay. It is important to understand that hay alone will not meet the minimum nutritional requirements of a rabbit. Also, when adding hay to a balanced commercial diet, there's a possibility of unbalancing the diet and not meeting the minimal nutrition requirements of a rabbit. It is very important that one totally understands that nutrition composition of the commercial pellet that is being used and what one intends to accomplish by adding hay to the diet. If one has a good quality pellet that has a guaranteed minimum fiber content above 16%, it may not be necessary to add hay to the diet. Commercial pellets that have a guaranteed 16% minimum of coarsely ground fiber will be sufficient in fiber-producing rabbits and goras to keep the wool blockage at a minimum. Maddie, what does this all mean? Well, it means hay is not necessary in a diet, as long as your fiber content's at least 16% in your complete pellet. But I understand there are special cases in where you would want to add hay, such as alfalfa for more protein and minerals, or grass hay for more fiber. Or, as the ARBA states, to add nutrition to the ration, therefore reducing the amount of commercial pellets used and the total cost to feed of the rabbits. To add fiber to the ration with the purpose of lowering the total caloric consumption to reduce the incontinence of enteritis. Or 3, to provide enjoyment to a rabbit to decrease boredom. Other than that, hay is not needed. And in fact, there are 6 cons to feeding hay compared to the 3 pros. But if you want to provide your source, I'll be happy to look it over. But if you want to keep regurgitating untrue information, I'm here to disprove it at any time. So the reason why people think rabbits are territorial is because they are territorial. But don't take my word for it, give me a second. I'll pin this paper in the comments so that you can read through it if you want, and they have their sources at the bottom. See, pet rabbits are evolved from European rabbits, which have a social hierarchy. They prefer to be in smaller groups, but if they are in larger groups, we see a dominant pairing. So in the wild, you will have a group of rabbits that live together in a warren. With that being said, we do see a social hierarchy between the dominant buck and the does around him. And although sometimes they do have subservient bucks that live around that warren, that doesn't mean that it's free of fighting or territorial issues. In fact, a lot of times we will see aggression so bad that it will maim another rabbit, life, limb, eyesight, or, kill them. So it's problematic to push the socialization of rabbits when their natural socialization isn't understood by the general public. Meaning, if you try to house 2 bucks in a very small pen or even a room, you can come up with detrimental actions. 2 bucks that seem like they're bonded one minute could in fact kill each other the next. Because bonding a rabbit isn't permanent and can always be broken. And don't think does get away with this either. Does are also very territorial and aggressive because they do set up a hierarchy. And although we don't see fighting in wild rabbits under 12 weeks, we do see problems start after that. And although most of them aren't serious till after 17 weeks, it still can cause injury to your pet rabbits. But again, if you want to read the full article and go over the socialization of rabbits and come back to say that they aren't territorial, I will ask you to once again read it. Because rabbits are territorial, even if they live in social groups in the wild. And it's safest and best if you don't want any kind of injury to mitigate this by allowing them to be solitary. Because someday they are going to get hurt. It's just a question of when and how bad. I wanted to talk about some of my red flags when I buy from another breeder. If you don't know, I raise rabbits for meat and for show. One thing that really sets up red flags when I'm buying from another breeder is if they're charging more for a certain color. So for instance, if you're getting a breeding pair off of a breeder and one rabbit is more than the other and you ask why, and the reason is because, oh, this one has a more rare color, that's a red flag to me. If I see that one rabbit is priced more than another rabbit, I want it to be because it's proven itself in some way. So for instance, it's been bred before and you know what the litter outcomes are. It's won a leg, or it's won best of show, or it's won a grand champion. Color in the grand scheme of things isn't that big a deal. 2, they're trying to sell me, or they're trying to sell some 4-H kid a rabbit that is out of SOP for show. This one screams backyard breeder to me. I'll see a lot of breeders try to sell, especially 4-H kids, young kids, rabbits that are out of standards. Either they don't have any nose markings as a broken, or they are Vienna marked. Meaning they either have the wrong colored eyes, or they have white patches where they shouldn't be. And I find it very predatory when breeders try to do this, especially to younger people. As someone who raises brokens and has a blue-eyed white program, I have many rabbits that are like that. Most of them end up in my stew pot. And the ones that I do eventually sell go towards a blue-eyed white program. Finally, another red flag for me is bad record keeping. If you go to a breeder, they should be able to easily answer your questions about their lineage and their pedigrees. And if they are unable to do so, or they don't have their records and they just go by the seat of their pants, that's kind of a red flag. You want a breeder that knows what they're doing, but is also able to tell you about their lines. Nothing raises my blood pressure more than somebody who's been breeding for 10 years, but none of their rabbits are pedigreed because they're too lazy. It's really a pet peeve of mine. It's literally, if you don't want to do a computer system, it's literally 5 seconds to write it down on a sheet of paper of who is mom, who is dad, grandparents, and great-grandparents. Now, if a weight is missing here and there, that's not a big deal. Or if that rabbit is new to their line and they came in without a pedigree. But the laziness with the paperwork, in my opinion, shows that they aren't spending the time that they should be in their rabbitry. But yeah, those are some of my red flags. I have a lot more. So for those of you who don't know, this is Lucky. We got her for 50 cents at Tractor Supply during Chick Days because she was the very last chick left in the store. She was straight run, so we didn't know if she was male or female, and she was supposed to be a blue egg layer. Well, the good news is she's a hen and she's now laying eggs. The bad news is they lied to us and she's laying more brown eggs. Look how cute she is, my little brown egg layer. So when it comes to people buying my rabbits, I have a couple red flags. One is when they try to argue the value of my rabbits with me and they don't offer a trade in return. So if I post a rabbit for $50 and they say, oh, hey, that's too expensive, you need to come down, but they don't offer me anything in return, huge red flag. I'm all for bartering and trading. If you want to trade me a couple of pullets for a rabbit, I think that's totally fair. But just trying to undercut my price, that's kind of a red flag for me. When a buyer throws a fit about being on a wait list. A lot of times, especially around fair year or 4-H time, I do have quite a substantial wait list for one of my rabbits. And if you don't want to be on my wait list, that's fine, but I really find it to be a bit of a red flag when you have somebody who feels entitled to where they can jump ahead of everyone else, especially the people who already have deposits down. Like, I am more than happy to help you find another rabbit from another breeder if my wait list is too long. I know quite a few. But skipping the line for my rabbits kind of feels like entitlement. When a buyer blatantly talks about going against your care instructions. So for instance, if I'm selling a meat rabbit and I say, hey, you need to give this rabbit a 1/4 cup of food per pound of body weight a day in order to get it to grow out properly. And then they talk about how they aren't going to do that. They're just going to feed grass, hay, and vegetables and expect the rabbit to do well. And then they get upset with me because their rabbit gets stunted and doesn't grow out like a normal rabbit. I learned the hard way when it comes to people talking against your care instructions. It's easier just not to sell to them. Because if I just don't sell to them, then I don't have to deal with the contracting and the issues later because they're unhappy with the things they have done to the animal. And my biggest red flag, I would say, is selling to other breeders who don't have a decisive mitigation program for culling their animals. I'm talking about breeders that never hard cull. They look at selling every single thing they breed. I won't sell to those people because they aren't running an ethical program at that point, and they're going to end up with all of these rabbits that will eventually end up in animal shelters or in the pet trade. And my goal is to never add to that. And finally, customers who don't like my contract, especially the little clause that says, hey, if anything were to ever happen, you don't want this rabbit anymore and you're not going to basically eat it, it comes back to me. So I'm butchering quail out tonight, and this is just your friendly reminder that you need to keep your kitchen shears as sharp as your knives. Processing is a lot faster when things are sharp, and I forgot to do it the first round, and I couldn't figure out why it was taking so long for me to do what would normally take me a couple of minutes to do, and I'm like, this is taking forever. But I fixed the problem, and now we're going through this real quick. So we got 3 down, 2 to go. So if you're looking for gentle temperament, I actually have 2 meat breeds that you should check out. I would look at Rex and I would look at Silver Fox. Both are pretty good about grow out and are super sweet and easy to handle. I've never had chinchillas before other than Rex that are colored chinchilla, so I have no real say on those. When it comes to champagnes, I have 2 of them. I have Moose, who's the sweetest soft boy ever, and I have Belle, who is a conniving little and just is not nice. If I had another Champagne d'Argento, I would not have Belle. But yeah, Silver Fox and Rex. They are amazing little meat rabbits.